was happy about my video, but I appreciate you expressing your opinion, and I think it's really important that we allow for all kinds of viewpoints here, or we're not really having a conversation, that we're just really kind of sitting in an echo chamber, and I don't want that. So that's why I didn't disable the comments, and I haven't blocked anybody on Facebook or Twitter. I think actually maybe we are having a conversation. I can't tell yet, but I will say that today I wanted to talk about why I started making videos, because I think the incidents that led up to this are really important, and the story needs to be told. But I received a message from the president of the college, Kathleen McCartney. She actually sent out this message to everybody in the college, all of the students, staff, and faculty. So I would like a chance to respond to that. So Kathy McCartney, President McCartney, thank you very much for sending out this message. I am going to look at it as an invitation to dialogue, and I'm going to respond. So I'm going to read it and I'm going to respond to it. Dear students, staff, and faculty, this past week, an employee of the college posted a personal video to express their concerns about the college's programming to promote racial justice. Well, I guess that's true. I do have concerns about the college's program to promote racial justice, but I have a lot of other concerns too that don't involve the programming. And I guess I need to make more videos to make myself clear, because there's a lot going on at Smith that affect staff that really needs to get talked about. But this is a true statement. I am concerned about the college's programming in this regard. So we can agree that's a partially true statement. Since the video was posted, members of the president's cabinet and I have heard from many in the Smith community who disagree strongly with the content of the post. Okay, well, I too have heard from many in the Smith community who disagree strongly with the content of the post. I don't necessarily think that's a negative. Do you? It seems like a good thing that they could express their disagreement and felt like they could say that to you. I think that's a good thing. This employee does not speak for the college or any part of the college. Well, really, I am a part of the college. I'm an employee of Smith College. So in that regard, I am speaking for part of the college. I'm speaking for the part of the college I occupy ideologically. If you can concede that I do occupy a space in the college. And in some ways, I speak somewhat on behalf of other staff who I've spoken to who can't speak publicly like this, or for whatever reason aren't, but who are, glad that I'm doing it. So I feel like, I do speak for part of the college. That's not really a true statement. I do recognize that you are the official spokesperson of the college. But in this case, ideologically, you speak for yourself and you speak for the cabinet, and you apparently speak for these members who have disagreed strongly with the content of the post, because you put that in your letter. But there are thousands of individuals at the college. If we can agree that the college is comprised of several thousand individuals, or a few thousand individuals, then in most of those people, neither one of us have heard from. We don't know what they're thinking, if they even care about the video or have an opinion. My point is, nobody can really speak for them. Really, if you really think about it, people can only speak for themselves. And that's something that concerns me at the college, is that the college, or that doesn't allow people to speak for themselves. But I'll talk more about that later. So, further, we believe the video mischaracterizes the college's important ongoing efforts to build a more equitable and inclusive learning, living, and working environment. Yeah, that last part about building a more equitable and inclusive living, learning, and especially working environment, I I agree with that. I want that too. And that's why I'm making these videos, because I want that for staff. And I feel like we don't have that. And I think where we disagree is in the means. So we agree on the end. So that's a good thing. We should be grateful for that. That's a thing we have in common. We agree that that's important. We disagree on the way to get there. And I think that the way Smith is doing or enacting the measures it enacts to achieve this stated end are not just ineffective. I feel like they're destructive and divisive. So, and they achieve the exact opposite. So that's kind of a big disagreement. And I also think that we are working with different dictionaries. This summer, I realized that when the college uses this phrase equity and inclusion a lot. I mean, a lot. And I realized this summer that I don't think that we're operating with the same definitions. And so it might be really good for us to go through and start really defining these terms so we can actually have a real conversation, because otherwise it's not going to be productive if we think we're talking about different things. I contacted members of your cabinet. I reached out to other individuals at the college to try to ascertain what does the college mean by equity and inclusion. And nobody was really able to tell me that. So I can only guess what the college means. I think I know what I mean, and I'm going to tell you what I mean and what I think the college means. So when I think of inclusion, for example, or inclusivity, I think of it, or achieving it, trying to achieve it as an additive process. So if we have a conceptual space, it could be a physical space, but let's say it's a conceptual space, we expand the space to include people, thoughts, ideas, etc., that were not already in the original space. So we expand the space to include, to add to it. From what I'm seeing, Smith's process of inclusion is a subtractive process. And what I mean by that is that Smith seems to spend an awful lot of time, energy, and resources into defining the boundaries of that space, of that conceptual space, of really, really, I don't want to use the word rigid, but putting a lot of time and energy into making very clear what the boundaries are. And let's say the space is a triangle. So Smith has defined that this triangle is the inclusive space. And then it takes the triangle and it applies it to the existing community. So if it were a cookie cutter, you put it on the dough. Everything inside the space gets to be a cookie, but everything outside the space is doesn't get to be a cookie. It doesn't get to be in the space at all. It's not part of the inclusion. And that feels subtractive. And I guess another word for subtractive would be exclusive. It feels exclusive. And I think, this is a perfect example of this is in this message when you say this employee does not speak for the college or any part of the college. To me, that feels like it's a distancing maneuver. Like you're saying that here's this person, me, I no longer fit inside this space that the college has defined as the inclusive space. I'm outside of it. And whether I leaped or I was pushed, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm no longer in the space. And that by saying I don't speak for any part of the college, you're kind of putting me over there. And then you're over here like with the rest of us are here and she's over there. We are all here and she's over there. And that doesn't feel inclusive. Gotta say that. It doesn't feel inclusive. So I'm not clear on what kind of, and I thank you for the perfect example that I could illustrate. I really would like to know more about that. You should know the employee has not violated any college policies by sharing their personal views on a personal channel. The National Labor Relations Act protects employees who engage in concerted activities, including speech, with respect to workplace conditions. All members of any workplace, including Smith College, have the freedom to criticize the policies and practices of their employer. Okay, all of this is right. I feel like I understand why this paragraph is here. I'm guessing that some of the people who contacted you in your cabinet, when they were expressing their disagreement with my video, they also expressed that they would like you to fire me, to relieve me of my duties at Smith College. And so I feel like this paragraph is code for, we would fire her, but we can't because there's this law that says we can't, that says what she's doing is protected. Otherwise, she would totally be fired. So it's a little disturbing to think that, I'm connected to my job by the thread of this National Labor Relations Act. But it's really more troubling that if the college is devoted to an equitable, inclusive living, learning, and working environment, then it's not clear to me why the college would need to invoke this law. I mean, wouldn't the college want to support and promote activities that seek to improve working conditions for staff? That is what I'm doing. It doesn't feel like you do want that. It feels like if we didn't have this law, you would fire me. That's what it feels like. And I'm also confused as to why you did not cite. Smith has an internal policy about freedom of speech, and it's absent here. And I don't know if it's because I cited the National Labor Relations Act in my video, or if there's some other reason, because we have two policies. I found them. The policy concerning freedom of expression and dissent, which I guess is what I'm doing, and the statement of academic freedom and freedom of expression. And both these policies are they have a lot of language in them, much of it explaining just how important these protections are and why they exist, and why the free, unfettered exchange of ideas is so important. It's important because that's how we grow. That's how we make progress. And it's pretty foundational to a liberal arts institution. That's how we progress. The reason it's important also because if we don't have these protections of freedom of speech, then we risk everyone sliding into this, where we all think and feel the exact same thing. And that would be a case in which President McCartney, in which you could say that you truly speak for the entire college, ideologically and otherwise. And I don't want to live in a world like that. I don't want to work in an environment like that. I feel very lucky that I live in a country where I can express myself. These policies, as far as I know, are legally binding. Like if a college has a policy about freedom of expression and dissent, then it has to stick to it. So I'm just wondering, that's an open question for you, why you didn't include that. And I kind of think it would be good for us to maybe put a little more spotlight on those policies, because right now I think a lot of people are very afraid to say what they really think, because they're worried they're going to get fired. So I don't think that's a healthy situation. Do you? Do you think that's healthy for the college, really? Nevertheless, I am writing to affirm that the President's cabinet and I believe we have a moral responsibility to promote racial justice, equity, and inclusion at Smith College. Well, that's good. That's a relief. I think you do too. And I think that racial justice, equity, inclusion those ideals are worthy of consideration by everyone. I will say here that, something happened at the college on your watch, and it was fairly recent, and the college acted in a way that is the exact opposite of racial justice, equity, and inclusion, and to me was one of the biggest moral failings I have ever been privy to in my life. I mean, like, personally been around. The more I find out about it, the more troubling it is. And I think it's great to say that you have a moral responsibility, but to say that and then not put your money where your mouth is, basically to like then behind the scenes kind of pull strings in a way that really, really result in a lot of damage and a lot of hurt to staff. That's very concerning to me. So I agree with you on the statement, but I don't agree that you are fulfilling that moral responsibility. So I'll say that, and I think we should talk more about that. Okay. To the people of color in our community, please know our commitment is steadfast. Okay, great. Your commitment to racial justice, equity, and inclusion is steadfast. Why is that only important for the people of color in the community to know? Why wouldn't everyone be concerned about your commitment to racial justice, equity, and inclusion? Isn't that... So that's unclear. And then the last sentence is, and especially to our students of color, please know we are here for you always. I find that last sentence troubling. I think there's a subtext there. There's a little hidden message to students of color that says, we are not totally confident in your ability to look at a video in which somebody goes off script and be able to handle it or be able to do that on your own without coming to us for help. So we're here for you. That's what I'm here. That's what I'm seeing when I break down or unpack that sentence. And that's very troubling to me. It kind of implies we have different standards for students of color, implies that they need more help, that they are somehow less than and less capable, less powerful. It's extremely disempowering. And I see this message a lot communicated from the Department of Residence Life, not literally, but in, subtext everywhere. And sometimes quite literally, actually, now that I think about it. And I'm not going to, I think I made clear in my first video, I'm not going to participate in that. And I think you putting this on this message, I ask that President McCartney, that you really think carefully about what you're saying to students of color, the real message you're sending, and the thing that you're believing inside too. I don't think it's healthy. I think you're setting up a dependency that students of color somehow need you to help them emotionally and morally, like moral guidance or something. I don't know, but I'm not going to do that. So, sincerely, Kathleen McCartney, President. All right. So, Kathy McCartney, President McCartney, what say you? The ball is in your court. I'm awaiting your response. I hope you do respond. And until you do, I will make other videos. Okay. Thank you so much for coming back, and let's keep talking. Over and out.